Good morning, everyone. This is Training and AutoML Working Group Community Call on 3rd of September. As always, this meeting will be recorded and published on YouTube. This meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. We have a few things today that I want to talk about and really interesting topics to cover for the release. Just before maybe just, I go over like the agenda items, I want to first of all just announce we have a new maintainers. I think this is great. So we have a new maintainer for the trainer project. Thanks a lot, Antonio, for all of your help with development and with the release. I'm really excited for you to become an approver for this project, and looking forward to working more closely with you and for the future releases, because I think we've done a really great progress over the last year once we started this consolidation. So looking forward to onboard more maintainers for Kubeflow Trainer and other projects within the ecosystem. Yeah, thanks again for your help. Really appreciate it. Um, I think we also have a new maintainers for SDK. I think we have Anya and Sad who became a reviewer for the SDK project. Similar to Antonio, like they helped a lot with the development, like especially on the like support for the local execution. And overall, I think the idea to drive the Python native experience for the scientists is the right thing for us moving forward. So really exciting to to see how we can streamline the experience of using Kubeflow projects overall, because again, like I see a lot of interest from data scientists, which is like I'm kind of more interested in, like the folks who actually work with those platforms. We really need to think about how to streamline experience for them and how make it easier to run those AI workloads on Kubernetes. So really exciting to have more people helping us to develop those tools. Yeah, I think this is great. Thanks again for all of your help. Really appreciate it. Yeah, as always, like just a reminder, like everyone can become a maintainer. Like we have a process which defines, for those who like want to see how to become a Kubeflow project maintainer, you can take a look in this community membership. So we have like several roles and several grades how you can apply for this, for several like requirements how you can apply for these roles. Although like in the steering committee we try to work how we can simplify this process, like how to make it more clear for especially new contributors how to become a reviewer, an approver, maybe a project owner or working group lead. But I don't know, like we at least for now we have a process for reviewers and approvers. And again, like if you're interested to become a project maintainer, please take a look in this doc. It's explains like the requirements and how you can be part of this uh, of these projects. Yeah, so with that, I think Akash, maybe you can talk about GPU then, and then we can talk about release. So do you want to share your screen or how do you want to?
I want to share my screen. That
Yeah,
will be
good.
okay. I did send request. Can I share it? Okay. Okay. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, so I'm very again to all members, I'm very glad to announce basically this is part of my GSOC project where I'll give a little bit context then what we have achieved till now. So again, being ML platform, Kubeflow in general, all the CI action that we're using were always based on CPU based infra, maybe from GitHub or like some of the VMs already we have from the Oracle. So again, my project is entirely effort is for to support GPU based infra, so we can run at least some of our GPU workloads there. It is starting with the trainer project. Maybe later future down the line, we can expand to other projects and other repos in the Kubeflow. So again, this particular thing, like first PR we made, this is for enabling the self-runner infra, which is phase one of the project, where we are using a GPU based infra to run some of our workloads. For the phase one, what we have done is basically I have from OCI, we have a VM which has GPU support, and we are transferring our current any of the GPU workloads to there. So I'll briefly explain the diagram. Maybe then we'll come to the implementation part of that. So this is the architectural diagram. I think first part is not like it's changed a little bit. There is some modification to that. So whole idea is like for any pairs we have in to the trainer project, maintainer there is specific label. I think here you can see okay to test GPU runner. So any PR anyone submit to the trainer repo will be running as it is. But now the CIXM which I have added, it will be particularly looking for a particular label, which is OK to test GPU runner. So again, because we don't want to overcrowd the infra to run each and every PR on the GPU workload, not all of them are needed anyways. So our idea is to very specific where maintainer have to manually put that label uh, to the PR. Once that label is put on the PR, the GitHub self runner transfer to Oracle VM, which is basically GPU enabled. I'm trying to replicate the same how the current CIXN we have for testing E2E test suite, but there were from my testing as well as depending on requirement, there are few modifications. So this PR is basically for that. I'll be putting link. Maybe I'll request all of you to review and do give your suggestion. But basic idea is I think there are few changes which I'll demonstrate. Other changes are almost same as how we are doing before. First of all, while setting up Docker, again, the default runtime doesn't work. We have to patch the default runtime with immediate runtime for Docker. So this is the first step. Then again, I think one of the major issue which I faced was kind out of box doesn't support GPU. So what NVIDIA has done, they have given a wrapper, NV kind, I'll share the link as well, which is kind of wrapper over the usual kind binary, which with patches, it can create a cluster which support GPU. So first step is again changing the runtime. Then second step is instead of using kind, I'm using NV kind to create the cluster. Even after that, the cluster won't be having GPU support. We have to again install a GPU operator on the cluster to enable the GPU workload to run on that. After that, at least for this current PR, I have transferred I think one of the log like torture example to run on that, which will display run on it, execute all the operation, and depending on that, it will give the result. So initial idea is this, where we are basically running one of the workload in the GPU infra as part of ARC, as part of self runner. So this is phase one, where we have single VM to support that. The phase two, which I'm parallelly working on, instead of just a single infra, because again, this is not the current implementation is not scalable. It's again just one VM. If there are like two or three PR, it will be on queue for a longer time. So the second part of implementation is to use GitHub as a feature called ARC, which is Action Runner Controller, which is like Kubernetes specific operator where we can have a cluster uh, to transfer our workload to that, whatever GPU workload we have to that. I think for trainer or for Kubeflow, we are already using ARC for few of the project, but those are again CPU enabled only. So those are like generic CPU cluster, supported cluster. The phase two, which I'm currently working on, the final aim of this GSOC project is to support ARC along with GPU support, where the scaling problem or even queue problem will be solved. So this is the entire idea what we have achieved till now, phase one. Phase two, which I'm currently working, I'll be happy to present maybe in coming weeks for regarding phase two. So yeah, that's it. I'll share the link for the PR. I'll request everyone to review because I think this will be one of the very good feature that we have for our entire project.
Yeah, I think this is great. Like overall, I think as Akash said, like Qflow community never had GPU. We never had GPU infrastructure, like since 2017 when Google started this project. So I think again, this is huge for us, because even like I saw for infra migration since kind of Google, we migrated from Google infrastructure to AWS infrastructure, then we tried other infrastructure, and we also migrated to GitHub Actions. So I think like overall right now we have quite stable infra, but the problem for us was we, as Sakash said, like we're using the self-hosted runners providing by Oracle, but they're just CPU based. And with this change, we can at least test something on GPU. So I guess like Akash, the question is like in terms of ARC, because with ARC, it looks like we don't require any kind of manual steps, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Managing those runners, right? So do you have any timelines or idea like when we could have it?
Again, Andrew, I'm actually working on that. Basically, this is the okay, OCI console where I have like one of the cluster running. The issue, not issue exactly, the blocker which I have is basically current one, the stuff which we have, like creating a cluster on the VM, then executing all the stuff, because already this will be transferred to a pod in a cluster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Docker in Docker thing, which has some of the complication. But wise, I think within 1 or 2 weeks, I'll be happy to have one more similar meet where I'll be presenting this.
Okay.
Like broad idea I have, but this Docker in Docker or like in a cluster, basically REC cluster, we are again creating according to our current schedule, we are creating one more cluster to display to run the result. So that has some complication. I'm actually working on that. I think hopefully
Mm-hmm.
soon we'll have a good update about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the cluster we have. I think few of them are used by few other GSOC students. I created one node pool for our thing. One of the major, again, it's not a complication but slightly different, like Oracle. By the way, I work at Oracle, so the worker nodes which are there, they only support Oracle Linux, which is basically a property from Oracle, which is very similar to CentOS. So that's there, but I think we have to change some of the steps. Currently what we're doing in E2E steps, so all the manual stuff that I have for the current VR, that won't be necessary. There is a straight away plugin from NVIDIA that we can enable on the OCI console to enable the GPU workload. So few of the stuff won't be needed, but I think there will be few steps which we might need to improvise based on the current implementation. Because I think long-term goal is to use ARC, not self-runner. Self-runner, I mean, we can have at any point of time. So
Yeah.
long based on
Yeah.
scaling,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
uh,
sense. I guess. Like, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Go.
Yeah, based on that, I'll be giving the update. Hopefully, within coming weeks, I'll be showing this in this our working meeting.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think it's great. So overall, I guess like the main differences would be that for self-hosted runner right now we have always running VM, right?
Yeah,
And we don't really start pods and the scale them down, right? It is always running, right? Which needs to make we need to make sure we clean up the kind cluster, right? We need to
yeah,
make sure we do all those cleanups before we deploy a new kind cluster, right, on this VM.
yeah. I think that's part where because
Yeah.
the current, I think I did show the current image that we're using, that is GPU A1, which
Mm-hmm.
has E1. There is option in OCI where I can use the different shape, which has two GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the limit will be again from 1 to 2. It won't make much of a difference. So that's why,
Yeah.
again, the long-term goal, obviously, our aim is to support ARC where we won't be, like, at least it won't be our headache to scale or depend on number of GPU nodes. That will
Mm-hmm.
be auto-scaled by ARC.
Makes sense. And all of the required installation on those pods, like we can use the predefined images, right? Uh, like we can basically pre-create the required images like with this pod, right? Like similar to how we run the existing CPU based ARC cluster, right? Um,
I didn't get the first part, like predefined
yeah,
image
yeah.
of,
So basically, my question is like, for example, I know we need to install some of the like kind, for example, right?
yeah,
So kind needs to be installed in this VM, right? But
yeah,
in ARC approach, like from my understanding, we can basically use the same action as we do for CPU based runners, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
mm, yeah, because yeah, I guess like my only question, we don't need to really install anything um, by ourselves, right? Everything will be managed by ARC controller, right?
Yeah, yeah, and like you're absolutely correct. A lot of things that we are installing currently won't be needed. Like for
Yeah,
example, DQ operator, which we install system wide or even kind. But since this is running in a pod in a bigger cluster, in pod again we'll be putting one more cluster and scheduling. So there will be slight changes,
yep,
but a lot of things we don't have to do. Like this will be one-time step when we create the cluster. So.
yep, yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Any questions from other folks from the community on this?
Yeah. I have shared the link. Please do review. Let me know if you have any suggestions. I have again linked to I think 2 or 3 more refactor issues as part of this PR, which will be coming in as soon as this is merged. But yeah, any question from anyone or any suggestions?
This is great. I think it's really cool. Um, there might be just like things around strategy and support metrics. Do we only support one version of Kubernetes, or are we going to support like end-to-end testing on all Kubernetes versions that we support by Kubeflow Trainer?
So like again, idea is theoretically we can support all the versions. I think there are 4 versions, but not actually issue, more of a limitation. I think that the whole reason we added manual labels from maintenance to not overburden, because those cost like again having a GPU cluster itself cost good amount of money. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
assess based when this PR is merged, depending on our workload we have as a community member, and depending on how many requests we get or how many PRs we get, which do require compulsory GPU resources. So depending on that, we can take call, but I personally feel we have to see, because again, it's not like if we scale where a lot of load and we don't require much, it is going to cost like some of our credit which we have from CNCF. So for
Yeah, I think it.
now,
Yeah, yeah. Finish up, Nakash.
yeah, for now, I think all of us, or like from maintenance side, we have to see how much what is our need. I think that is something. It's more of a technical thing. It's a more of a how we want to do it. Maybe once in a while, or we definitely don't need for all the PRs, the GPU workload, but we do need for few of them. So that few, I think, if we get a data point, maybe in a percentage or maybe once in a 2 week or something like that, I think that'll be easier for us to decide.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think for now, because we don't use ARC, we use just VM, like VM that Akash deployed. We cannot really run this in parallel because we have a limitation of 2 GPU in the VM, which means
yeah,
we can only, like run workload which requires 2 GPUs in the same time. Which means like in ARC, if we have like, larger capacity of cluster, like for example, 4 GPUs,
yeah,
we can run, three workloads in parallel, right? But we
yeah,
need to make sure those workloads which run in parallel don't really overuse resources, right?
yeah.
And I guess like so from my understanding in Oracle, do we use autoscaler groups or will we use like is it on demand capacity or it's spot capacity? Do you know?
No, I think and the current one which we have, those are managed ones. So those are on demand, and like
Mm-hmm.
it will be charged only for what we're using. So current, I think this GC for I think this is for GSOC cluster. This is managed one, but for production, I'll suggest to you go for the sorry, this is the virtual. My bad. This is what the virtual one where this is on demand. But for production, I think probably we will go for managed one, because that will be easier to manage. Like a lot of control virtual node doesn't like virtual cluster doesn't offer.
So I guess like this is you have always like running 2 GPUs, right? So
No, the current one which we have, like actually for GSOC testing, we have that is the virtual one, which won't be running always. On need, this will be running.
You mean like the VM, right? That you created, right? The virtual machine, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think we can definitely talk about it later, like, how we can, whether it's, how those ARC clusters should look like,
yeah,
and, whether we want to use spot capacity or on-demand capacity.
yeah,
Because for CPU-based runners, we don't care, right? We just, request for resources and ARC cluster will create the pods for us, right? Like, I don't know
yeah.
how Oracle managing those self-hosted runners. Sorry, like like where they
Yeah.
deploy this ARC controller, I'm not sure about it. Um,
I think one of the like good learning I would even have like I would be to check how CNCF or Kubeflow manage the current ARC for CPU based one.
yeah, I think that would be
Maybe,
really helpful.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe I'll connect you offline, because I think I we discussed last time also. This is nothing to do with like the Oracle or like the infra. I can simply replicate this in my own system. So it's more of a configuration from our side, and it will be good learning for me as well how current CPU based ARC is working, because already we have in production and which is working very good.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we can move on to next topic. So let me share my screen. Yeah, so maybe we can quickly talk about the release. So for the SDK side, I think we already started thread, but we have like these few PRs we need to complete. So maybe like a question for, I guess like the biggest one is the local execution. So Sat, when do you think we can finalize the changes?
Yeah, I'm prioritizing this one, hoping to finalize it by this week, so maybe tomorrow or maximum day after tomorrow to have like the PR finalized.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I'm working. There is some similarities for some sorry differences between the local execution I'm trying to use existing data types, so I'm not depending on any additional data types to resolve this one.
Yeah.
But like for example, to set the commands for running the script or to set like the path to the virtual environment, it just requires some additional functions to be defined in the utils so can get the proper
Yeah.
runtime setup.
Uh,
So once this is done, it should be ready to go, hopefully.
yeah, I remember like, on the like last week on the ML experience call, was a question around GPUs.
Yeah,
I kind of like wondering, I know you have this kind of like smart system to detect the, resources for sub-process runners.
yeah.
Uh, do you see this kind of a useful feature for local execution?
Yeah, so like it could be. I try to make it align to some extent with what Kubernetes offers. So you write your train function once and just like direct this to local or to any cluster you might be using. I can simply remove the resource manager. It's not a big burden to keep it or remove it. So simply for CPU and memory, it might be a little bit easier to kind of control resources and to control like what CPU and memory to be allocated. But for GPUs, I'm not so sure. I think without depending on some binaries or external processes to kind of like limit or provide fractional GPUs and so on. Yeah, so given that, we can just like ignore this resource manager completely if we
I
don't
think,
need
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Overall, I think this is useful, but I think it's kind of like more complex that we, originally designed here, right? Because I would imagine, maybe users want to run something locally on their Mac machines, right? So what
Yeah,
if, something which, I don't know, like how Kubernetes will, how we will have this mapping, right? Between containers running on Linux on Kubernetes, and between, like something you run locally on your, like machine, where it is, Linux machine or Mac machine, right?
yeah.
Even for CPU, so do you think it kind of like have like one-to-one mapping? Um,
Not really. I don't think like it really provides like the fractional CPUs still. I think you might take a core or block some CPU time, but it's not like similar to what Kubernetes offer. It's just like a way to kind of like if needed, but I don't think I would say like 90% of the users will just ignore it or might just say, okay, we don't care about this one.
yeah, because like again, different systems have different, like architectures, right? We have like unified, for example, like unified memory on macOS, Linux we don't have it, right? Or
Yeah.
something else, right? And I think overall, I agree. It kind of would be, super useful feature for users to try out, right? To see, for example, how much memory they need to feed their tensors to the model, right? Uh, but the question, like in terms of implementation, I think it's slightly harder that we really think about, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree. I'll take it out for now to simplify things. It just like this can be removed from the job.py by just commenting out a single function
mhm.
parameter. So that
Yeah,
shouldn't be an issue.
we can
And
just say resources per node is not supported for local execution for now, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely that much easier.
I think overall we should continue discussion to see if there's something, users will require. Do we know for KFP local execution, do we have something similar or not really?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I'm not so sure to be honest.
Okay.
But again, like for KP, it's just like running processes. I don't know if they need to limit resources on them. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
maybe as as a follow-up, would be nice to see, whether they have any capability, right, to set resources in a local execution mode, right, as some process workflow, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I think
cool.
overall it looks good. I think that we just need to base the PR and finalize it. Other things. Um, so I think all other PRs kind of small, right? And I think I can
Yeah.
work with Brian for unpacking, right? And I know we're working for you for this automation release script, right? Do you like maybe one question for this for 65 PR? Do you want to try this out for the first release, or the first release you want to have manually? Like,
I think I will open the PR just like today and finish all the scripts so we can merge it and it will be fine to release SDK with automated CI job.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Zed.
I know it's not ideal, but what we can do if we would like to test this PR, maybe we test it with like another index like Keyflow SDK. We merge the PR to merge to like or to post to Keyflow SDK or to publish to Keyflow SDK. Try to create a release, and if it works, unless we're confident like everything is okay, we can just like tag it to Keyflow um, index directly.
Yeah, I have already tested that on my fork and published it to the Kubeflow test to PyPy, and everything seems to be working. The only thing that I need to update is I discussed that with Andre briefly is that we might need to split the changelog for each major release, right?
Yeah. So I think like the rough idea was to similar what KQ and JobSet is doing, another Kubernetes project. Like for example, let me show you. So Q um so the project Q, right? They have a changelog separated by the version, the minor version, and it will be easier for us to have Apache releases back. I think we should do the same for Trainer, because the problem with the unified changelog that we're maintaining right now is that like it's very hard for us to have Apache releases, like for example, after some time. Like if we like for example, like if we right now in the 2.1 point 0, and if we want to have a patch release for 2.0, it's very hard for us to do so because this is just a single file. So this is why separation between multiple files makes sense, because you can always have a patch release when you need to, push some bug fixes back to this minor release. It's not like kind of applicable right now because we had just one release, but in the future we will, shortly realize that just it is very hard to maintain a single change log. So I think that this approach is much better for us to follow. Yes, I think overall I agree. Let's try to use this one and try to see if this automation will work for RC. I kind of like expect again we will start with RC0, right? And then maybe we can iterate several, maybe a few weeks, maybe 1 week for RC0. If we don't see any bug fixes, we can just cut the official 0.1 release, right?
Yeah, sounds great.
That's all good? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the SDK release?
We will also need to update the examples of trainer.
Hmm. Example, like how do you want to update them?
So first of all, these params unpacking and then multiple pip index URLs. And
Yes, that's right. So I think so.
also,
Yeah. Yeah. Go.
who? What?
You can go ahead. You're talking about this 79 PR, right? We need to update the
Yeah.
examples.
Sorry, I might my connection got lost. I don't know if you heard me. Yeah. So this PR for pip index URLs, and then also the example for local execution mode.
Yes. So we want to have an example for local execution mode, right, to try this out. Um, I know we have some pending PR, right, in the Trend repo right now.
Yeah, I think we'll close that because the person will not continue working on it, so I'll create a new one.
Okay. Yeah, Kash, go ahead.
We do also have to update the like examples we have in the trainer repo as well, right? So is this regarding that?
Yes.
I think because I remember for my testing, you that some of the models or those I have to edit that and then merge as part of PR.
Yeah, so for now we're only run examples from the trainer. So how it works right now, we have examples in trainer repo, and so we just taking the changes from the main branch and run the example from the recent SDK changes. It's not ideal because some of the breaking changes can break examples, but at least in the future we should actually not introduce any breaking changes, right? Once we have this first initial release of SDK, we should not have these things which kind of blocking us, the PRs because of this breaking change. We always need to have like go through the deprecation process and update examples. Then in the next release, remove this deprecation API. But for now, yes, we should do this kind of tricky things to make sure the E2E are complete. So, anyways, yeah.
Like, okay, fine. I'll check it, or maybe I'll see if there is something else I can contribute, because I did had like decent enough experience after when I was doing my changes. So
Okay.
I'll see if I can help somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess like just Brandon, I know he needs to leave, but I guess like he probably needs to update the examples, right? After this and the website as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Any other things for SDK?
And then, yeah, I know that we will need to create the generated docs, the website for Kubeflow SDK, right? But another thing that I've been thinking about is, do we want to have a separate page on the Kubeflow website for Kubeflow SDK, or maybe just like a small tab for users on how to install with like local execution mode examples? However, that might go to trainer itself, right?
Yeah, so from my point of view, maybe we should first of all focus like on the website similar to what model registry is doing in Kubeflow pipelines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to have this, website based on the doc strings, right?
Yeah.
And but I agree that we need to have some sort of section how to run this locally. The question would be, should it go to the trainer, like to individual basically projects, or it should have its own section? Because there are pros of both ways, right? Because from the user perspective, it doesn't matter like how we call this SDK. They will just use the project, right? They want to use they want to train their models, right? They go to trainer, they see all of their required APIs they want to use to try this out. But we can definitely talk about like how the Kubeflow website should tell users uh, how to use this API. That makes sense for local execution. For example, we can have a subsection in the user guides, right? In the trainer user guides, if that makes sense. Like here, basically, how to run Kubeflow trainer locally. Um,
But what if we make this local execution mode like a framework for different projects,
yeah,
Ktype, trainer, and then we'll just add it for each of the component?
yeah. This is what we need to talk about, right? What is the ideal experience for users? Like we kind of like need to have like users to understand their how they use it, right?
Yeah.
Because yes, maybe subsection for every project will make sense. Yeah, but I'm not sure yet because we don't have trainer right now, right? This is a tricky. I
Mhm.
think we're just too early to talk about this, like from my perspective.
Yeah,
Having the docs at least for the API, like public API, I think this is super important, right? Similar to model registry or Kubeflow pipelines, right?
yeah, but like for example, if we migrate Ktype SDK to Unified SDK, and then we'll want to have a end-to-end workflow example of how we can use Ktype and
Mhm.
trainer together. In this case, I think it's beneficial to have like a separate page for Kubeflow SDK examples.
Mm. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think we could definitely maybe we can talk about after have a release. So I agree that having I want to understand like from the user perspective, like because like they always complain about our docs in the Qflow website because they are kind of maybe was not really structured before. I think right now they're slightly cleaner, but there's still a lot of kind of confusion, especially for users who never heard about Qflow. So we kind of like need to think about from the user journey perspective when they come to this qflow.org. Like we say, Qflow SDK is the main interface to interact with Qflow APIs, right?
Yeah.
Do they expect to have this Qflow SDK as the page, or they expect to have like like the or they going through the project? For example, like I want to do training on Kubernetes, I go to trainer. I want to do parameter optimization on Kubernetes, I go to this Ktype docs, right? I want to do I want to get my models from the artifact store, I go to model registry. So we really need to understand from the user perspective, how does it make sense to structure those docs? Um, yeah, but I agree with you. It would be beneficial to have a separate section for the SDK. We just need to make sure we don't really duplicate a lot of information, right? They don't confuse new users.
Yeah, right. Just maybe like reference to existing examples. I just wanted to bring this up before release Kubeflow SDK, just in case on how to show users how to use SDK. Do they go like to README, or do they go to?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the question is like, yeah, because we can point them here, for example, for now, right? And they can just pip install Kubeflow. We can point them to README, also like on the PyP. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's
Mhm.
all right for the first release, but then we'll need to talk about that.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Um, all right. So for the trainer side, um, so I know we have like so I know we have few kind of ongoing caps and proposals. Um, I kind of like want to maybe ask when do we have any plans when I have 2.1? Um, and is there something which we really want to have? Like what should be our release cadence for the trainer? Um, I know Yuki he's on the call right now, but Anthony is he on the call? Maybe you can provide your perspective and your thoughts on the release cadence. Mm, yeah, Anthony, if you're talking, you're on mute. We can't hear you right now. Yeah, so maybe let me maybe link a few of the issues that I think we probably need to see whether this could be going to the next release, right? Because we already have a lot of great things in the 2.1, some important upgrades and important features. I think like we have, I believe, three ongoing caps, which is happening right now with Jack support, the Volcano scheduler support, and the data cache that has been discussed for many months. I kind of like maybe expect three of these to be complete before we cut 2.1, because I think this is very essential to, to give this functionality to to users who want to adopt this. Um, but overall, I would love to, hear from the community. Is there anything else which is missing right now, or any bugs we want to cut before we can have the official 2.1 release of trainer?
Sorry, what about patch release? Do we do that in
Yeah,
trainer?
usually we do patch releases only for bug fixes.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so if we have any bug fixes, yes, we need to cut it to 2.0.1. As far as I know, there is no really complaints. I saw some complaints from users around pod spec overrides. And I know there are some ongoing PRs to support other fields there, but we didn't really cherry pick this to this patch release.
I think. I just wanted to say that yeah, I think it will be good to release trainer 2.1 since we have already updated the models as well. So we just
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like maybe the few important things we need to talk about this API, like the pod spec override APIs. I know, yeah, I started this thread, but if there are any breaking changes, we should definitely talk about them like earlier than later. Especially if we want to have new API and to support labels. Um, but overall, like I will try to, go over all. If you have any PR that you think must be included in 2.1, please, add the comment on the issue, or maybe add them to the milestone directly. Or you can, ping the maintainers, they can apply the milestone. Because I see like a few kind of important issues we should address before we can release 2.1. Um, Yeah. So, but anyway, so I guess like all like overall, I think we should do it sometime maybe in October, or like when this cap will be completed. Maybe just definitely before KubeCon, so we can have something for users to try out. But if we think that we want to have kind of more frequent release cadence, we can also discuss it. I think previously we talked about maybe have SDK more frequent release for SDK, but kind of less frequent releases for the projects, for the APIs. Maybe like, we can have a monthly release of SDK, and we can release projects once in 3 months, for example. Yeah, but I think overall, like, let us know if you have any ideas or suggestions. I think previously we didn't really follow the strict release cadence, but I think this is important for project stability and to see how users actually adopt this project moving forward. All right, so I think like last topic, I maybe want to briefly talk about the project Katib, and I know we don't have a lot of time right now, but there's been kind of discussions like what should be like kind of our next iteration to supporting hyperparameter tuning within within SDK or within Katib. Um, One thing that I want to say that we need to have someone who can volunteer to uh, drive the next generation of Katib APIs, especially like we've been discussing for a very long time how we can get rid of the experiment concept within the Katib API. So as of today, like for those who don't know, Katib has this API called experiment, and it has its own API spec. It has its own like objective, algorithm, some other configurations like trial threshold and the hyperparameters and the trial spec. The problem with this API, we've been discussing with overall Kubeflow community that experiment concept kind of like probably overused, and we should make our CRD more kind of hyperparameter optimization focused. So users, when they use SDK, they can just call the client, and then they can do training, they can do parameter optimization, they can stitch this within the workflow using the KFP. Maybe they want to they can do Spark data processing. So for that, we definitely need to think about redesigning of Katib API. Um, One of the kind of, I would say, uh, complex topic when you think about how to deal with Katib features, like for example like early stopping. So early stopping, like for those who don't know, it's kind of like a feature which allows you to kill the running trials if their metrics are not performed well. Like for example, if you have a training job and if your accuracy overfit, like if it actually if it gets worse, it can automatically kill the trials based on some different algorithms. So hyperparameter tuning support different early stopping algorithms, and right now I think we only support median stopping rule. So the thing is like around the scheduler, like we need to think about when we redesign the API how those features can be supported in the right way. Like I don't know if we have any good explanations here, but let me try to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't think we have any caps for early stopping. Um, yeah, it's only push-based measure parameter distribution matrix collector. Yeah, I don't think we created any caps, but I think like how it works actually in Katib, like it it's not really a right way to do those things. It's kind of like we dynamically parsing the metrics, we sending them to the early stopping service, then the service decide whether it needs to interrupt the trial CRD or not based on the results, and it's updating the CRD status. So it's happening inside this separate service, not inside the controller. So I think overall, like this just doesn't work in the way that how Kubernetes should update resources, and I think this definitely needs to be reconsidered if we go to the next version of APIs. Um, and there are other things like, for example, like trial templates. Like, do we want to support other trials other than train jobs, or we only want to support train jobs within the Katib jobs, right? So there are like multiple things we need to talk about. I think the most important thing we probably need to agree, like what should be the resource name for optimization jobs, right? And I know I kind of like started this discussion whether we want to have this new workload called, like I think it was discussion on optimized job, sweep job, or search job. I think we kind of like proposed something like maybe HPO job could be as well, right? Um,
Study job.
yeah, study job, right? Uh, so we kind of need to agree what we can do for the short term because API refactoring will take a lot of time, right? We need to like re-architect all those features and we need to re-implement them. If we start with SDK and if we propose some API like some clients, like for example, we can call it, sweep client. And this sweep client can do, can do sweep client.sweep, which actually do the hyperparameter search. Or, we can propose if we call it, searcher client dot search, right? So we can still use KDB primitives, but refactor them in the API. So this doesn't force us to do the CRD changes at the first place. That will give users kind of like, short-term value to do hyperparameter tuning using this legacy KDB experiment CRD. So this is one option where how we can push this forward to consolidate the KDB APIs, KDB functionality within Kubeflow SDK. Um, this is one thing we can do. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any differences between like when we use like a sweep job or search job or optimization job, like that kind of jobs that we support right now in the back end? Are there any differences between them? Like technically, do we set additional parameters? Do we differentiate between them in the back end?
No. So from the KDB, it still be experiment, right? Uh,
Okay.
but we don't even need to expose this to user, what I want to try to say, right? Because similar to trainer, we don't expose the train job CRD to the end user, right?
Yeah. Okay. It's just like my idea was like if we can group them or differentiate between them from the back end, maybe we can just like have a single client, and from a single client, you can just support, okay, sweep job or search job or optimization job based on like the technique you're using or the algorithm you're
Oh,
calling or whatever.
sorry. So I think yeah, I think I was talking. So yeah, all of these they're kind of the same jobs. Like all of
Yeah.
these, like, and I'm just trying to
Okay.
find the name. It's like hyperparameter tuning job, right? Like
Mhm. Yep.
so basically we need to find a new name for hyperparameter tuning, right? Uh, and it could be, like search job, it could be C job, it could be HPO job, depends on what we decide to have, right?
Yep.
About like I like how, for example, RayTune structured their APIs. Like RayTune has this things called schedulers, and they
Yeah.
have the concept of algorithm, concept of tuner, right? Concept of
Yep.
parameter spec. Some of this concept makes sense, and we can inherit them. For example, the scheduler concept in RayTune, it's similar to what is it? Like async hyperbind scheduler, for example. Um, 1 second. So yeah, so this one, right? So they have like trainables, search algorithms, schedulers, trials, analysis, right? So exactly the same like what actually hyperparameter tuning, like normal hyperparameter tuning optimization workflow looks like, right? The differences
Yeah.
between scheduler in Ray and scheduler in Kubernetes, like uh, in Kubernetes, scheduler usually decides how to schedule pods, but in Ray, scheduler can affect the running like it can affect the entire life cycle of the workload because like in the hyperparameter tuning job, those techniques, like those algorithms, they're affecting the already running workloads. Like they can stop them, they can kill them, they can group them, right? So, and it works away for Ray because in the Ray world, scheduler kind of like affects the entire life cycle of the workload. But in terms of APIs, I think we can use something similar. Um, uh,
Mhm.
like, and we can apply them in the future for the already existing APIs. For example, if we decide to use sweep job as the client, like sweeper client, and use the sweep API. In the future, when we support early stopping, we can introduce, I don't know, scheduler parameter, right? Or we can introduce, I don't know, early stopping, right? Just to make it, more explicit to the user. Um,
Yeah.
we can support them, right? But that could be part of the sweep API. Um, So I think initially we should
Okay.
agree what client, right, and what name we should use for just optimization problem, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the
Yeah.
we should and then iterate.
Yeah, like I think I like what Ray was discussing, what we were mentioning about or sorry, what Ray offers as kind of separation between algorithms and trials. So if you have like a search algorithms implemented different, like in a specific way, and we're just using a train job or any like a kind of backend job to search the space for finding the best optimal parameters for these, maybe we can just give it any name, like if we, I don't know, if we want to call it optimizer or
Yep.
call it anything, and then we select an algorithm and say, okay, use this algorithm with this job to find the optimal parameters. A bit of restructuring, not just renaming. I don't know.
Yep. That makes sense. And I think we just need to agree on the naming.
Okay.
And we can definitely, take some inspiration from this API and see how we can, use something similar or explore other APIs like Aptuna. Aptuna has also very good APIs that we can also take a look.
Yeah.
And I know we're already using some of those Aptuna functionality within Katy because we don't really re-implement algorithms. We just use them inside suggestion service. I think what I know where we're time, but what I think my suggestion would be to just try to explore what other APIs we have, and maybe suggest some ideas in the thread that I started, and I can link it here in this doc for the thread that we're discussing. But so I guess explore, Raytune, Aptuna, HyperOpt also, and other algorithms, like what kind of APIs they use, and maybe we can propose something. Yeah. And the question would be like whether we want to rename the Ketip to something else, right? This also we should at some point talk about, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I see it. Perfect.
All right. Any other questions? Any last point questions for this? All right, great. I guess this will take some time for us to process. I think maybe for us to get like more attraction to SDK, giving users some immediate value would be great, even that we don't really have the proper solution on the backend side. So they can see the value of SDK, they can use it more, they can use a lot of things with HPO, and this works perfectly well with existing architecture, right? And of course, for a long term, we need to find someone who can drive all those discussions, because I think what overall we should provide a state-of-the-art API which will perform parameter optimization on top of Kubernetes, right? And I think we have all those building blocks which is required for us to do so. We just need to someone who take a lead and drive this forward. Yeah, but all right. Thanks everyone. I guess see you again
Perfect.
next week, and thanks for the time today. See you soon.
Thanks, Andre. Thanks, everyone.